All right. We are doing it. Welcome, everybody. Tonight's a bit of a different night. Last week, we wrapped up our Valorant campaign. And this week, we are trying out something new. This is a combination of a game system and campaign setting that I've been working on for a while. I think it's to the point where it's playable, and we're going to figure that out tonight. Or at least it will be for the adventure I've got in mind.
Some of us might die trying.
Some might, yes. Depends on where the dice fall. But yeah, so I guess just a quick overview. Anvea is both the name of the game system and the campaign setting. It's a kind of mash of a bunch of general high fantasy stuff combined with a lot of things that we've done in all of our campaigns, and then carried out to the implications of all of those things mixing together. It should be a fun little setting. Kind of the point of this system is to streamline a lot of mechanics that aren't fun to me and do more floaty, interpretive, open dice rolls and checks instead of like really hard defined things. You're more encouraged to use a skill in the wrong way than anything else, and just kind of see what happens. It's based on a D6 system instead of D20, so everything is going to be instead of just a static pass fail, it's going to be successes, degrees of successes, taking damage if you want to push it. There's a lot of systems out there like Vessin, Powered by the Apocalypse. A lot of those have similar things, but a few tweaks to it. And I think first thing, we'll go through some character creation. I'll show you guys what that's like. We did it a little bit before the stream started. Let's see. And then does the stream have Roll20 in it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So when creating a character in this system, first thing you do is you select a name and a title. Neither of these have any mechanical benefit. And your title is just kind of what your character would call themselves, or if they had to describe their like job title or their role, or maybe an honorific or something like that about themselves, that would be your title. The system's classless. It's going to be a bunch of combinations of skills and feats and things as you level up. You kind of build your character a la carte style as you level up, but title still helps for deciding what you want to do and kind of sticking to that. After you've selected your name and your title, or I guess we can go around and say what everyone has selected for that first before we move on. So Chuck, what's your name and title?
Oh man, character's name is Kozel. Vibing on the spirit of my old Zweihander character Kozel, so expect my hippie voice. And then the title is The Dazed, so I am Kozel the Dazed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That works. Jake, what about you?
Well, my character's name is pretty plain, but as is his title, but I think it spells out pretty perfectly what he is. He's Osmond the Giant.
Okay.
Nice.
And then Daniel.
Mine is unforgivably bad, but sort of a reference. So it's Elf Ranger number 7, the Elven Ranger.
Awesome. That works. Okay. So once you choose the name and title, from there you choose the race that you want to play as. There's quite a few to choose from. So real quick, you can be a human, dwarf, elf, drow, halfling, gnome, half giant, or leshy. The point of your race is mostly cosmetic, but each race has their own kind of skill feat associated with them, where it's a unique ability that only they can do. So, for instance, like a dwarf, if they make physical contact with their surroundings, they're able to gather a bunch of information about any environment they're in. Or elves don't need to sleep. Gnomes are kind of fun, where they've got like they have a sixth sense rather for magic, but it manifests by kind of like a synthesia thing, where it's not really its own sense. It kind of bleeds into other ones. So the same way that some people can like smell colors and hear tastes and things, that's kind of how gnomes are able to detect magic on a rudimentary level. So when you pick a gnome, you choose that. But what did everyone go with for their race?
I went with Leshy. Because if I'm going to play a stoner ass hippie, little plant dude fits really well.
You are what you smoke.
You are what you smoke.
And then what type of plant do you picture your character being?
He's a pot plant. He's hemp.
Okay. Yeah.
Just going all in.
Yeah.
Hey, Sammy, thanks for that sub.
That works. And then, so as a Leshy, you get the ability to communicate with non-sentient or sapient life. And that can be done with an insight nature check. So you're able to talk to like plants, trees, anything that doesn't really move around too much.
I can handle that.
There's other things later that you can talk to non-sapient life, like a bear or deer or something like that. But for starting out, just little plants.
Just plants.
Yep. Jake, what did you go with?
Well, I went with a half giant. Figured that was appropriate for a figure named the Giant.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into this later, but the main benefit of a half giant is that they have a higher encumbrance score in general. Usually your encumbrance is your strength times 4, but for a half giant, it's your strength times 6. And encumbrance is kind of like your limiting factor of how much you can carry. Then Dan, what's your race of choice?
Believe it or not, it's the elf.
All right. Elves are fun. So they get meditation as their skill racial feat. They can choose to meditate in place of sleep. And while meditating, they have the full benefit of rest, but are fully aware of their surroundings aside from sight. So usually they close their eyes and kind of meditate instead of sleeping, but they're able to hear everything, wake up immediately if need be. You basically have someone on watch, but not like actually watching when you're asleep with an elf. So can be handy for sure. So once you've chosen your race, then it's time to distribute ability points or attribute points. In this game, there are 6 attributes as your primary scores and or your primary stats. And each one of them represents some element or measure of aptitude of your character. So there's brawn, which is your strength, agility, which is kind of like dexterity, intellect, wisdom, charisma, and luck. And you have 20 to split between there. Usually the easiest way I find to distribute it is you put 5 in one stat and then 3 in all the others, and you move them up and down how you want from there. Only one of the stats can have a score of 5. The rest have to be 1 through 4. But because we'll get into this later, but there's saving throws that are based on your stats. Because saving throws are roll under, you pretty much never want to have a 1 in anything because that's an auto fail. So,
yeah,
important there. So, what did everyone choose, I guess, as their stat with a score of 5?
I went with charisma as my 5. But I did drop my brawn down to 2, so charismatic as fuck, but not too strong.
Agility
sense for play.
me.
Yeah.
And I actually took a 2 in intellect.
Okay.
I also have a 2 in intellect, but I do have a brawn of 5, so at the very least
Nice.
I can move things around.
There we go.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Then after attribute points, if my little slider thing will move, there we go. So after that, you go to 2 saving throws. So there's little check boxes on that character sheet next to each attribute. And those are where you mark if you're proficient in that attribute's saving throw. So saving throws are basically any time you have to make a check that you didn't initiate. And so it'll be like reacting to damage. Maybe you've walked into a trap. Maybe you're trying to, avoid someone recognizing you. Like it could be all sorts of different things based on which attribute's triggering the saving throw. But it's basically anytime the GM tells you to roll something that you have to roll. And they are all roll under checks. So if you have a stat in that's set to 5, like if you have a brawn of 5, as long as you roll a 4 or below, you pass the check. And then when you denote proficiency, you get advantage on that roll, or you get to roll twice and take the better result. And again, it's a good idea not to have anything as 1 because you just auto fail if that's the case, which is not good. So after you choose your saving throws, or I guess we'll ask what saving throws everyone went with. Chuck.
I went with wisdom and charisma.
Okay.
Seemed to fit.
Yeah. And then Jake.
I went with brawn and charisma.
Okay. And Dan.
I was thinking I'll do intellect and wisdom. That way I can take my unlikely save and make it slightly more likely.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to do it. You can use a save to make up for some lost points, or to guarantee whenever you're put in a certain position that you're probably going to pass it. So definitely both are valid approaches to how to spend those. So next you select 2 contexts, and the context is what gets paired with any action you take in this game. The context is what describes the target of whatever you're acting on best. And when you're selecting them at character creation, it kind of represents your character's upbringing. So the contexts are technology, nature, social, desolate, urban, warren, arcane, and occult. Technology being anything related to technology. It could be like a robot, it could be a lever, it could be like switches, anything mechanical, and also tools fall under technology. Nature is anything natural, biological, medical, anything that has to do with living things. Specifically when you're targeting like the living aspect of it. So just because something's alive doesn't necessarily mean nature will apply to it. It depends on like if that's the important thing that you're acting on when you are making a skill. Social is any social interaction with people. So it could be like markets, it could be talking to people, it could be a party, just any interaction with people and culture, that type of thing. Desolate is kind of like wastelands, barren, abandoned places, any like harsh environment that you're familiar with, and kind of shows like someone that picks desolate's probably someone that grew up like out in the desert, or maybe someplace that got like hit pretty hard by a war. They're usually kind of like scavenger types or that. Urban is any developed city, town, public space, specifically relating to like the space and the environment more than the people in it. Warren is any sort of like cave, cavern system, underground, anything like that. And arcane and occult are the two that are relating to magic. So arcane is any intelligence-based casting. So it's kind of like using magic as a science. And then occult is any charisma-based casting, which is using magic as kind of like a feeling. And it's more of an intuitive thing than it is a thought-out thing. And if you want to be a caster, then that's what you go with. You choose which one you want to be your casting attribute later. And that's how you start out. So what context did you guys go with?
I'm rocking out nature and occult. Nature because I'm a goddamn plant, and occult because I'm gonna go in like the druidic kind of casting.
Very popular choices for Aleshi. Then Jacob.
I went with Desolate because half giant Badlands sort of deal. And also social, because in dealing with people, he wants to not get challenged to fights by drunken morons all the time.
Sure. Makes sense. And then Dan.
I was going for like nature and desolate. I assume that, as a ranger, they're probably going out and exploring, scouting or something like that. So
Yeah. Those two combined, you're pretty much good anywhere above the surface. Like those two pretty much cover anything from like a forest to a mountain range to a desert. Like that's pretty good for a ranger. Definitely gives you that feel. So yeah, after you choose your contexts, we move into skill ranks. You get 4 to start. Every skill rank contributes a D6 when you use that skill to the dice pool. You can buy up to 3 in any individual skill. And there are some times that you won't be allowed to use them if you're taking a condition or whatever, but for the most part, it will just be a flat bonus to attempting your skill. So what skills did everyone go with?
Gosh. I went 1 in 4 different things. Didn't double up on anything. So I ended up with Conceal, Lore, Observe, and Insight.
Nice.
So I can hide, and I'm touchy-feely, and I might know things.
That works. Jake, what'd you go with?
I did 1 in athletics and 2 for force.
Yep.
Should have a 4th one, right?
Should have a 4th one.
Oh, a 4th one? In that case, I'll do 1 melee as well.
Okay.
Nice.
That works. All in the brawn field.
Absolutely.
And then Dan, which one did you go with?
I spread mine out too. So I did acrobatics, ranged, conceal, all in agility, and then 1 in find for luck.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, each skill has a attributed or a bonus that it gets from a attribute, rather. That those words got mixed up in my head. So every attribute will have 3 skills associated with it. And when you choose one of those skills, generally you're going to be rolling with the attribute related to it. Later, as you progress your character, you'll get certain bonuses that let you use different attribute bonuses to do different skills. And in some very specific contexts, depending on how you're trying to use a skill, you may be able to argue that it makes way more sense to use one skill as one attribute instead of the other. But in general, most of the time, those skills can only be used with their related attribute. So after you distribute those ranks, everyone gets to think of 1 D6 weapon to add to their inventory. And it can be a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, or a spell focus that's primarily used as a weapon. So because these are a D6 item, inventory items and encumbrance and all that are kind of tracked differently than most games. This is an idea that I got when I was playing Heart. I don't know any other system that tracks equipment that way. But I really like the idea where instead of counting like hundreds of gold and keeping track of every individual item, everything's got like a dice value associated to it. And that represents its size, its effectiveness, and its trade value. So D6 is kind of like a middle of the road. That's the most common type thing that you'll run across. A D4 would be pretty like mundane. D6 is trusty. D8 is pretty good. D10 would be an amazing item, and then D12 would be like some ridiculous legendary item. Yeah, those are super rare. So yeah, and then you get to decide what you want that weapon to take form as. Since they're all going to be equal to the same value, the bigger of a weapon you're going with, the kind of the less quality you're trading for it. So if you went with like a dagger, it'd probably be a pretty nice dagger. Or if you went with like a giant hammer or something, it's probably just like your starter or kind of banged up hammer. They're all going to deal a D6 damage, but you get to decide kind of the flavor of it. So what did everyone choose as their weapon?
I got a stick.
That works.
I got a rock.
I have a stick with
also
a
works.
string on it.
Stick with a string on it.
It's a bow.
Man,
Oh,
someone's intelligent.
okay. No, mine's just a regular
pretty
ass
good.
stick.
Yeah.
It's a very nice stick.
Good. Mm-hmm. That works.
My rock came from a volcano. You can't really tell because it looks like every other rock, but it did come from a volcano.
Okay. Then after you add your items to your inventory, the last thing for your character is the last thing they will ever experience, which is the prophecy. So when you write out your prophecy, that's basically a cryptic, vague way that you're predicting your character's death. It could be like they'll burn alive or something like that, or they'll die surrounded by their friends, anything like that. You get to decide how specific or how vague it is. But your goal is that when you die, you do it in the way that was predicted. So maybe if you're on the edge and you're pretty close to going out and there's not really much chance to heal back up, you might lean into it and fulfill that prophecy because of the echo mechanic in this game. So when you die in Anvea, your character gets an echo token. And this is an automatic success token that you get to give to any still living player whenever you want. You can only do it once, but it's kind of like your character's last hoorah as their soul drifts on and they fully pass away. It's kind of like the idea in a movie when you hear like your dead friend's voice come back and remind you of something for a fight or whatever. It's basically that narrative element in the game. And then if you die, you always get an echo token. But if you die according to your prophecy, in the way that you predicted that they would, you get 2 bonus successes. So
Nice.
when you're dead, you just get to sit on 2 bonus successes. And whenever you want, you get to give them to a living person in the party whenever they attempt any check. And that's how they go out. So kind of important what you choose, but not, you can be fun with it. You don't also necessarily have to die. There is a bit of a caveat there. So if you are alluding to just something that would make your character unplayable, so maybe they just have a goal that they're out adventuring for, and once they meet it, they don't want to play anymore. They're done, and that's when you would build a new one. You can like effectively kill them off and still get your prophecy if you really don't want to kill them. Just that option. But yeah, after that, that's your character. It's built. It took a little bit going through it just because we're explaining every step, but my goal is to get character creation pretty quick. So probably your first time through, it maybe would take you about 15 minutes or whatever, if you were just reading it. But once you get more experience at this game, you can probably roll up a new character in like 2 or 3 minutes pretty quickly, especially if it's a level 0 character. You just assign your points and choose your racial trait, and then you're good to go.
Did you want to know what our prophecies are?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I forgot. What's everyone's prophecy?
My prophecy is one day the weed will smoke you.
Very
glorious.
fitting for your little hemp tree. Yeah.
Mine is feet
Jake.
trod rarely in a serpent's den.
Wow.
Very cryptic. I like it.
Just means there's a snake in your boots.
Yeah.
No.
Oh God, no.
And then Dan, what's your demise?
If you see something but don't say something, domestic terrorism
Works.
wins.
Yeah. And again, like really, they're meant to be cryptic. So you could just argue if any point in your prophecy applies to how you died. You can be real loose with it. You know, the same way that anyone is with any prophecy and anything. But yeah, just a fun way to not feel too bad if you wind up dead. Another thing to note on character death. So kind of when you're playing this game, the best way to think about your current party is a team that's been assigned to a job or has some goal in mind. It's kind of assumed as you're traveling around, going from town to town, that you're interacting with people. And there's a few different ways to go about how you would reintroduce a character if someone were to die. You could say maybe there's someone in the bar that overheard you talking and they're also interested in the same thing. Or when you get back to town, you go out and you look for a recruit and get them to join you guys. Or if everybody dies and there's still things to do, you could say maybe it's like a group of people in the village that were concerned about the party and wanted to go out and see if they're still alive. Or maybe you could do a tone shift and it was a group of highwaymen that overheard the party was going to go somewhere dangerous and they want to go steal their loot. Like you can use settlements kind of as like home bases or save points in a way for your progression in the game. So you don't necessarily have to die. And
A bunch
campaign
of
with
jealous
a TPK.
tavern dwellers get wasted and say, we can do it better than they can and faster too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it's encouraged to kind of like lay those seeds as you're progressing around so that you have a way to pick up where you left off if you have to. Yeah, that's character
There are
creation.
bugs I must deal with. I'll be right back.
Go get them.
Oh my God.
Crunch,
All right.
crunch.
Slay them.
Let's check the deal. That is that. I mentioned it kind of briefly with items. So everything is represented by a dice value. That's to get away from the whole like counting individual pieces of gold and taking time to stop the game and divvy all that out. Not a big fan of that. It's not really fun to do on stream. It's not really fun to do off stream. And I'm not really a fan of game systems where you just have to do work like that to make use of, your payouts and benefits and things. So the goal with equipment in this game is that everything's just dice value. It's pretty easy to wrap your head around immediately how useful that item is. Every item will have tags and descriptions and extra things associated with it. So you might have an item that is trusty, meaning that you get advantage every single time you roll with it. You get to take the higher of the damage rolls. Or maybe you have an item that's volatile and it might explode if you use it incorrectly and deal damage to yourself. So those types of modifiers can apply to items and affect their value in a way. But also because encumbrance is pretty limited too, you're encouraged to, only carry stuff on you that's really important. It's kind of assumed that you have most equipment and most mundane things. Like any dungeon crawling game, you always say that like I buy the mirror and the pegs and the rope, and there's stuff like that your characters will always have if they're out adventuring. And this game just assumes you've done that. You've done like your prep work, you have those items. And when you're rolling, you're not rolling to see if you have it. You're rolling to see like if using it worked out for you, or if, maybe it was a faulty one and it broke or something like that. But it's more of a hand wavy aspect to that, so you don't have to waste a whole bunch of time just spending 2 gold on really mundane things, and you can get to the bigger stuff. Is there anything on this that I haven't touched on? This game uses a fallout system for when you take too much damage. And it also does health a little bit differently. So unlike most, like say D&D or something where you've got one giant HP pool, Anvea does HP in 3 pools, and each one represents a different type of way that your character would take like misfortune. So there's physical health, which would be your standard, like getting stabbed or tripping and falling, getting crushed, anything like that. Anything that physically hurts your character is physical health. There is a mental health pool that reflects like stress and paranoia and maybe mental spell effects or getting drugged, that type of thing. And then there is fortune, which is every kind of external or more meta effect that might happen to your character. So fortune consequences could be like you have a bounty on your head, or somebody wants to start a fight with you randomly, or you have an item that breaks, or anything like that. And eventually, if you take too many of these debuffs by taking too much damage in any one of those particular pools, one of those debuffs will pop up as a lethal one that will kill your character. And that's always kind of randomized when you take too much damage. You take on a fallout, and eventually one of them's lethal, and you get to play out how your character dies. And if it relates to your prophecy, then you get that echo bonus. Oh, that's all the main key points there. Just in general, supposed to be quick rolls. Not a whole lot of math, more time talking about how you're using your skills and less time adding numbers together to see how they apply.
Yeah.
So on to the setting that I'm planning on running these next 2 playtests and a campaign after our Shadowhander game. I'm calling it Hand of the Dual Planes. So it's been 650 years since a rogue segment of the once great city Polis crashed into the epicenter of what is now the New World. As 2 billion tons of earth punched through the plains of Brennan to a previously inaccessible part of the world, and then violently exploded through the caverns below, ripping up the earth and causing all sorts of environmental disasters. The world changed quite a lot in Runecia, which was the place that we played our not last campaign, but the campaign before. So basically, the end of that campaign, when that giant piece of that city was dropped, you all didn't really see what happened when that fell. And we kind of cut away the campaign right after that because you all used like a teleport to get off of that falling, gigantic piece of the city. And it was pretty high up in the air. It was pretty large. And in Anvea, on this planet, there is a subterranean surface like gap, between the core and the surface. That's called the nadir. And that was definitely enough to break that. And the other fun part was that there was a massive kind of bomb on it with the thing that the big bad was using. So
people.
Yeah. So while you guys teleported off and were in Nyla's, nice little carved out forest up in the north in Norin, there was an apocalypse of this giant chunk of the city falling, crashing through the earth. As soon as it stopped falling, it exploded, but now it was underground, and all of the energy just got shot through the caverns and twisted and ran up and blew up and made all these cracks. So now the area is referred to the hand of the dual planes because it broke out in kind of like these 5 looking fingers through these caverns. And now there's like 2 even levels almost of land to walk on, and referred to as the dual planes. So there's big chunks of land that are still intact from before, and then there's other big chunks of exposed land or caverns that you can walk down into. And we're playing about 650 years right after that happened. So there's been time for the 2 places to mingle. There's been some wars. There's been a lot of hardship. It's kind of calming down, but everything's kind of settled itself out, and people are still kind of true to their homeland where they were before. People from the surface are usually referred to as Forelanders, and people argue about how that's spelled. Some people call it a Forelander because it's a before lander, and other people call it a Forelander because it's for like FOUR, because there were 4 continents at the junction where it fell. So people say like, oh, it's Forelander because we're one of the 4 continents or countries. But most people spell it as before lander. And then there are dwellers, which are people from beneath and have kind of mingled their way. So the races that you guys were picking from were pretty much all Forelanders, with the exception of drow, which are a species of elf that used to live in the Nadir. There's a bunch of other races that are not playable yet because I haven't made their traits, but there's eventually going to be gnolls and goblin types and half orcs, all sorts of the more dangerous races out there. But yeah, so this is going to be where we're going to run our campaign. It's kind of like this new turbulent spot. There's a lot of things that people don't understand about the subterranean part of the planet that's being uprooted. And then there's also some leftover stuff from the surface that's being kind of tossed around and chaotic from all this. Yeah. So for tonight, the encounter or the thing I had planned for you was you start out in a small village. What do you guys want to name this village?
Why do you ask us these things, Joe? Because we're going to come up with something real dumb. Because the first thing that came to my head was Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Taco Hell.
Taco Hell. Okay. We're workshopping it. Tacobel. All right. So I spelled that with a K instead of a C.
Mm-hmm.
Takoble. Tacobel.
Okay.
Perfect.
So
You saved it, Joe. Good job.
yeah.
Our bad idea and made it less bad.
That's great. Yeah. That was a way to put a stamp of this playtest in the world. So you guys are in the small village of Tacobel. They've been pretty heavily affected by the big cataclysmic event of the earth uprooting, because they used to be a pretty large city that was like a little bit of a forest settlement stronghold. But one of the caverns ran straight through the center of it and then also forked halfway through the city. So there's this big like third of it that stayed intact, and the rest of it just kind of got demolished. And there's these giant chasms that are now filled with fog, and there's only a few directions to leave the city safely out the north. And then if you want to go out the south, there's this giant bridge that kind of stretches this chasm. But because the city is mostly surrounded by this chasm and there's a lot of history there that people don't want to give up, it's been kind of problematic because a lot of things have crawled up at night from these new voids in the earth. So as part of this kind of yearly ritual, the people employ the use of one of the local mages to put warding sigils pretty much everywhere they can get them. And they need to be maintained every year. And it's just about that time. So you guys are you guys are employed to go see why Bagbart the wizard has not made it out here to his agreed upon contract. You've been given a token of goodwill, which is this little package. Who wants to carry this package? It's kind of like it's like a leather box almost. It's tall and kind of narrow.
I'm a giant, so I'll carry it.
All right, that works.
It is small for you.
Put down the package as the item name on your sheet.
Yeah, right.
It is a D6 slot. And then you would write down in slot that it's in your inventory. For context, put arcane, comma, 3 question marks, indicating there is another context, but you're not sure what it is. And then it has 2 tags, unidentified and omen. So there's a lot of tags in this game that kind of sum up common mechanics or common interactions that you have with them. And one of them is unidentified. So if it's got a magical property of some kind, but it's not one that's super intuitive, then typically it will have the unidentified tag, meaning that you're not able to make use of it until it's explained to you or you figure it out through trial and error. Although that's usually pretty dangerous. You might risk destroying the item or hurting yourself in the process. And then the omen tag means this may or may not draw unwanted attention. Kind of ominous. So
Totally cool.
totally cool. Yeah. But yeah, you're told that Bagbart lives pretty far to the south from here. And you're just recruited. You guys aren't necessarily from the village. You could be if you wanted to be. There's all sorts of, it's a pretty rough area to survive because of how much of this region's been blown up by one of the fingers of the hand. So because people are so adamant about staying here, there's lots of work and people recruiting adventurers, trying to kill off some beasts and demons that are coming up, and well, not demons, but like monsters from the deep. So you could say you're an adventurer. That's why you're in town. Maybe you're one of the people that's got history there, and you just want to, double down. Why do you guys think that you would be in this village?
Man, I don't know, wandering around, I guess. I went out, get a pack of smokes, I got lost, found the big dude, and he's just like, hey man, come along. And I'm like, sure, I guess. Sure.
I was like, look at those ding dongs lost in the forest.
There's a big ding dong and a bushy ding dong.
That works. All right. And then Jake, what do you think that you're in this area?
I think he's typically a wanderer. Being a half giant, he doesn't really get along too well in any one particular township for too long. So he just he wanders around just to keep from being too much of a bother to people.
Okay. For sure. So you guys all kind of wander around the surrounding area and kind of all bumped into Jake at one point and seem to be traveling together for that. I guess, Jake, you decided to take up the mantle of this mission that they were searching and scouting people out for. And the two of you decided that you'd like to tag along and see it through. I imagine, Chuck, you're probably just going along because it's the thing that's happening.
Yeah, man. Like,
with the flow.
sure. Why
Mhm.
not?
And then I imagine Dan, your elf, wants to see some perhaps incompetence in their traveling skills, and
I mean, they clearly
yeah.
need help.
Yeah,
Yeah, just let them.
it's a rough area. And
Like, as long as we can grab something to snack on the way, I'm cool with that.
I mean, Taco Bell
Absolutely.
is known for its food, so
Oh,
That's
nice.
true. I mean, once we get there,
yes,
the Cobble, yes.
I'm on,
yeah.
what's that one diet that's all meat? I'm on that
I'm
diet.
picturing now they've got like a giant bell in the town square that's like
Oh, absolutely.
it's like the one major piece and feature of the city that survived, and they've kind of like fortified around it.
A single tower from an old church with a bell stand.
Yeah, it's like a symbol of Takovil and their resilience as the rest of the world crumbles around them. All right, I'm definitely writing that down. Okay, but yeah, you're given this package. It seems to be sealed. It's kind of got like it looks like it's like rectangular and kind of tall, and it looks like the top of it's got this square cap that would lift off, but it's been sealed not with like a lock or anything, but it's got this twine wrapping it, keeping it kind of secure. If you move it around, it feels like there's something heavy kind of in the center of it, and it doesn't seem to like make any noise if you shake it or whatever.
Like,
But,
when are we opening up the present, man? Is it your birthday?
yeah, does this? It feels like this fails the Christmas test.
Yeah.
Like shake the box and see what's inside,
Oh,
because it didn't make any obvious noises.
I bet it's a rock. Or maybe a
We already got one of
spoon.
those.
It's definitely a spoon.
Maybe it's 2 spoons.
All right, don't get fancy there, man.
What if it's a rock
Nope.
and a spoon?
is there anything you guys want to do in town before you head out? Again, so in Anvea, there's not much prep that you need to do in terms of gear. It's kind of assumed, unless specified, because maybe you all encountered some sort of misfortune where you lost your packs or something. That could be an event that happens. But unless specified, you're usually just assumed to have the general equipment that you need to go out adventuring. And you can make it checks as if you have things. The only time that you would be required to make like a find check to see if you have something is if it's a very, very specific niche tool that you couldn't reasonably expect to have on you.
So a spork.
Maybe it's a cat.
You pull a Glock 17 from the package.
Who needs courage when
Yeah.
you've got a gun?
Cast
Niche.
bullet.
But effective. Mhm.
Remember, shoot
Yeah,
them below the
so-
knees so it doesn't account as attempted murder.
Is that how that works?
That's how it works, man.
You shot him below the knees 15 times.
Yeah, man. Like just a long range chainsaw just took them fuckers right off.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I have no idea. What are we doing?
Called
I mean,
Fine with
Uh,
not messing with the arcane unidentified object that could potentially explode. I don't know if it will, but
fair. I'd say whoever gave it to you. Let's see.
did they give us instructions not to open it?
So you're speaking with Malaya. She is one of several, not like the mayor per se. They don't have so much of a structured government in the town, but she's more of like kind of like a deputy, I guess, someone that handles like kind of disputes and things and is almost an acting mayor. So she would see you like inquisitively messing with the box. She'd say like, "Oh, careful, it's it's fragile. It's something that Bagbart usually likes. So very
What-
expensive.
Why doesn't he
Don't break
have it? Like, is it his birthday?
Well, it's not his birthday, but it is his obligation that he should be out here by now. I don't know why he is. And with those eccentric types as he is, it's usually best to show up with something that will put him in a good mood. So
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I dig that. Bribery. It's a
Yes,
solid
absolutely.
cornerstone of any government.
mhm.
or just getting.
We need those
anything done.
sigils, and anything that it's a small price to pay in the long run if it means we stay safe.
Okay. So, like, are you going to go get him? Like,
You're going to bring this to him.
oh,
That's why I hired
okay. It's the other direction then. All right. Which way? Everyone locked up? Everyone but me locked up. Why did this happen? They all locked up. I'm still good. The stream's still going. I'm panicking. I don't know what's going on. Stream, can you still hear me? It's just me. Yeah, I don't know. Hi, everyone. Oh, Zoom just crashed. I'm still here. Are you all there?
I think
I think so.
I am now.
Okay. That was weird.
Aha! I have become Joe.
Well, now Joe's gone. I'm the only person who's right, but now we technically have two Jakes.
Oh my
Oh, no.
gosh!
A little bit of left Jake and mostly right Jake.
You're like 3/4 Dan and 1/4 Joe now.
Oh, and Dan's Jake.
Yeah,
Quick,
I'm sorry.
Well,
Jake,
geez.
give us an ad.
Uh,
No, not you.
Oh.
Spoons. You got them. You don't got them. You need them. Spoons.
Spoons, brought to you by heroin, a spoon's best friend.
There we go.
Hey, there's Joe. Go over here. Is that right? I should.
Not quite. Close. I'm still
Close.
Joe.
All
All
right.
right.
Who needs to go
Can
here?
you hear me?
Jake needs to go here. I can hear
can.
you. Can you hear me? I need
Sweet.
to go there.
Yes.
Oh,
And you guys are no
almost.
longer trapped in a ethereal freeze frame.
It was great because I was still live.
I could see in the stream that like you were still going.
Yeah.
It's panicking a little
What
bit.
happened? Was
Zoom
it just me that dropped out?
No, it was everyone but me. Zoom just said "fuck you" to the world.
Huh. Okay.
Zoom was like, "Hey, guys, knock it off."
This stream is bad, and you should feel bad.
Well, it
Said
wouldn't
Zoom.
be Defenders of Kobold without technical difficulties.
Exactly.
Okay,
did it.
we
We
survived.
broke Zoom.
did.
So
Every
yeah,
episode gets one.
which direction?
Yeah. Okay. So she would say, like, well, he lives pretty far to the south. If you travel south out the bridge
Oh,
and then along the road for about a day, there's a fork to the left. You'll hit another village. And then if you go up the mountain through that village, you should have a hut somewhere.
so
Are we?
I haven't
are
been there
we being-
personally. That's just what the people that gave me the package told me to tell you.
okay.
Are
So
we being bribed also?
South Bridge, Left Fork Village, Mountain Hut.
Yes.
All right. I start walking.
Are we being bribed also?
Oh, yes. I will be able to pay you guys not so much up front, but I do have a resource to spare. And she would hand out a healing potion. Whoever wants to take it.
I'm already
I'll
walking, so
put
it's
that
one
in
of you two.
my stuff.
Okay. So, Cord, it is a healing potion as the item name. It's a D6. It's arcane and nature as its contexts. And yeah, I don't think there's a tag specific for that. Yeah, and then description you can say heals 1d6 damage.
Right on.
All right. So
Very well then. I will stride with great quickness to catch up to Cozy.
mhm.
It doesn't take you long.
No.
All right. So you guys head out the south end of the village, and there's this long, like arcing rope bridge that seems to have been kind of put back together a few times. You see there's like obvious kind of discolorations where it looks like maybe it's snapped a time or two and they've had to put it back together. But for the time being, it seems rather sturdy. And right as like you're getting to the edge of it, there's a few people that are walking off of it towards you guys, just walking into town. And then looks like there's someone like way on the other side of it. So it looks like people are using this bridge.
How wide is it?
It's wide, just barely enough for two people.
Okay. So it's not like one of these things where we'll get clear to the other end and a dude with a cart shows up and we have to turn around and go back.
Well, it might not be wide enough for a cart.
Maybe a guy with a big
But-
bag, and he's like, "Nah."
Yeah.
All right, I'll
I'm a
just,
guy with a big bag.
I'll
but-
just
but don't
hit him
worry,
with my
Joe-
stick.
Yeah.
Jake
With,
can just push them off.
Right. Yeah.
Give me the bag.
Jake's half giant. You could still fit two people side by side with Jake, but they'd be kind of like a little bit cramped beside him. It wouldn't be too comfortable.
All right, I start walking.
Yeah, let's let Jake go
Yeah.
first. That way he can be the intimidating
it's-
person in front that keeps
it's-
people from. Never mind. It's too
It's
late.
too late. I'm walking.
All right.
Well, you're a leshy, so I'll just step
Walking
over
across.
Yeah, that's super easy to do.
you.
I'm slow too, so like, yeah, it's not hard.
Mhm.
If you're getting too far behind, I'll just pick you up.
Hey, man, it's a piggyback ride.
Be like a dog
Yeah.
just above a pool of water. Just
Usually, you got to pay extra for this.
Mhm. Yeah, you guys walk across. Once you get to the other side, there's like small trail that starts weaving through the forest a bit. Then, after traveling for a brief moment, you find the fork in the road. And, typically a fork is left and right. They told you to go left. But this fork is one of the many new types of things you'll encounter along the road, which is
Roundabout.
a divergent path that goes not a roundabout.
My God, we can keep going left
A
forever.
footpath roundabout.
no.
But, no, it's a fork in the road, but it goes between planes. So it goes either down into like the more Warren area, or kind of goes up. And and you'll be walking along the surface. But the road does fork left and right, and the left kind of arcs down and goes, and you see that there's like this big kind of chunk where it looks like one of those explosions had rippled through the area, and you see this big opening to start walking underground.
Here we go.
They did say left, right?
No, they said left.
Correct.
Right.
Dude,
Yes.
it's left. Listen, there's a lot of things I don't know, but I'm generally right about it being left.
Okay. All right.
No, left. Left, man.
Left you are.
All right.
Yeah. I start walking.
Start walking. So you guys head down. You're making it through this. And so you're underground, but again, this explosion kind of rippled through in a very destructive and not very like clean cut between the dual planes. So there's lots of sections where there's just a big chunk missing, like a skylight down that you can see. And there every so often, like a tree or something's kind of tumbled down. So growing up almost normal in one of these holes.
I'll go talk
so
to one
it's
of
not
those
like a-
trees.
Okay. Yeah, there's one pretty close to the entrance of this like split path.
Hey,
And you can do that.
what's your name, man?
Give me an insight nature check.
Fuck is insight.
So
Insight.
Uh,
Nature. How many dice is that? That's charisma 6 dice. Plus I got a context for nature.
So you get your all of the dice of your attribute, plus any skill ranks that you've spent,
All right.
plus 1 if you have a context.
All right. So 7 dice.
All right. And then are you able to see the macro for checks at the bottom left?
No, it doesn't look like you've got it turned on for players.
Yeah. I can show the
how
macro
do you do
bar,
that?
but there's no
Open the
macros.
macro and you can scroll down and it should be a drop down for player visibility or some shit like that.
Oh, okay. There we go. I didn't know I had to do that. So
We may have to re-roll.
Should
or reload if
see-
you just turn it on.
Here. Do you guys see it now, or do you need to reload?
I'll reload real quick and
Yeah.
see.
I didn't know I had to do that.
I don't see it yet.
That's fine. I'll
Yeah,
just
So
roll
it's
7.
visible to players. Do you see if you go to the macros tab, do you see macros available?
I
No.
just
to
have
check
the
on
show
to
put into
macro
bar?
quick bar, but
Yeah, that's it.
What in the world?
I do see rollable tables, but there's nothing under rollable tables.
I also see decks.
Yeah, decks are default. What in the world?
We can touch with it some more later if we need to.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Obama.
Okay. Well,
That's
do
right.
you know how to do successes in Roll20 then?
What's the number
I
we're
think
hitting
it's
at?
less than.
Yeah, so if you roll a 6 or above on any dice, that counts as a success. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be only a 6 because you're rolling d6s for almost everything. So it would be the number of dice you're rolling, d6, and then I believe the
So if a 6 is
than-
a success, it's the /R space number d6 equals 6. And it counts all 6s as
greater than some.
Yeah, that's what I use. I use the greater
It's the
than
greater than.
5
Oh,
because if we can upgrade our dice eventually, then
okay. Well,
that
still,
could be.
on my initial roll, I got a success.
Okay. Awesome. Why is it not showing me? I'm gonna reload my chat because I wonder if it's
Okay.
not connected.
So yeah. What's your name, man?
So you said you got a success on it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see all you guys in there now. What in the world? Maybe that's why the thing didn't pop up. Let's see if you're able to see these appear
Oh,
now.
there it is. Yeah, that worked. All right, macros in there. Still, 1 success.
Okay. So 1 success. That's enough to communicate.
Nice.
And you're asking for its name,
Yeah, what's your name, man?
and you just get this like soft breeze that talks back to you that no one else hears anything, but you know the tree's saying fur.
Your name's Fur.
And it just says back fur.
Fuck you, Fur. And I keep walking.
Maybe it's Douglas fur.
That's all I wanted. I just,
Fur tree.
I'll walk past and say, sorry, Mr. Fur, and continue going.
The wind whistles, but you don't know what it means. But yeah, it's a fur named Fur. From there,
It's everything we expected
guys-
and less.
yes, you're traveling through, and there's kind of this general trend of it seems to be getting lower and lower. Every so often, you see more and more rubble that's kind of broken through. You see tree roots that are growing out of the walls and things. It's almost like a forested cave with how it's been mixed in. And as you come around the first bend that breaks your like line of sight to the outside, you start seeing there's some like torchlight cast along the walls the other side of the cave. As you round this corner, you see there's a group of looks to be 3 people. One of them is probably a halfling or something. They're very small. The other 2 look to be humans.
wait, so this is that
They're
village?
both. It's
Or
not a
no,
village. It's just
We're still on the
people
path, right?
Still inside. Still on the path.
Okay.
I mean, do
All
they
leaning
appear
with
to
their
be-
backs along the wall,
What are y'all doing?
and they step up, and then you see like they kind of jump to an upright position as they notice you guys, and one of the humans like nudges at the halfling, then stands up and cracks his fingers and trots out. And as he walks up to you guys, he says, "There is a toll to pass through this part of the deep roads," and he holds out his hand like, "Pay up."
Oh, yeah.
I'll slap his hand. No.
Wait, no, I got this,
High five.
man. I'll pluck off one of my leaves and I'll hand it to him. Grew that myself.
All right. He grabs it. He's like a little disgusted at first. Give me a what are you trying to convey to him with
Nothing. I'm
this?
just handing
You're
him a
paying him
leaf.
something.
Yeah, I'm paying him
Okay.
something. I don't have money. I don't know if I necessarily understand the concept of money. So
Right.
I'm paying a toll. Like, here's something that's worthwhile.
Yeah. Give me a just give me a charisma save on that then.
So that's just my flat charisma test. Or-
So yeah, click the save macro, and then type the number of your charisma modifier.
So my charisma score's a 5, and I got a save in it. So I just plug in 5.
Yep.
No.
And then because you have a 5 in it, you can re-roll it. Or because you have a save in it, sorry, you can re-roll. So punch a 5 in again.
Okay.
One success. All right. So you hand him this leaf, and he seems confused at first. He's like, "Yeah." He kind of smells it a little bit. He nibbles on it. He's like, "You're made out of these?"
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. My daddy was, some of that sticky icky, and my mom was a mushroom, so I'm potent as fuck.
He has like a slightly disgusted look on his face, but grabs the leaf and walks back to his crew. And you see them kind of muttering together. Is anyone doing anything while he walks back? Or
Should we just keep on moving? Have a nice day.
Yep.
yeah.
Start walking.
Yeah.
So you start walking back, and you see that they're in this like kind of uppity talk at each other. You are able to move by while they're all distracted.
Nice.
Perfect. This is easy.
Peaceful resolution.
Mm-hmm. As you see too, if you were to look back, like as you make it kind of farther away from them, you see that like the halfling kind of turns around and looks and then like points over at you guys, and the other two just kind of like wave and have them come back, and looks like they're going to leave you alone.
I'll wave at them too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at this adventure
right.
stuff, guys. You're
I
all lucky
know,
to
look
have
at
me
that.
along.
Sure.
Very
Easy.
lucky.
And one of you
No.
should give me a piggyback ride.
Okay.
I think there's room in my backpack.
I don't know. I'm taking the piggyback ride, man.
Yeah.
I haven't had this kind of attention
that.
since I was a sprout.
How tall do you imagine your Leshy is?
Like 2.5 feet.
Okay. Yeah.
Short, but
So,
very bushy.
Yeah, you're probably like 5 to 10, maybe 15 pounds. If you're a
Yeah,
Leshy.
something in there.
I'd say
Yeah.
about
You're like
15-ish
a-
pounds.
You got like a fancy hat.
Yeah, man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's how I won and lost my first wife.
Yeah. All right. As you guys continue through, it starts to get a little bit darker. But right when it seems like there's not going to be any more light, there's just this other big kind of like skylight chunk missing from the top of this cavern that you're walking through. More of the forest has grown through it. And as you round your next bend in this cavern, you hear what sounds almost like a scream or a yell at first. It's pretty repetitive, and then it sounds more like an animal, and then probably Daniel and or do all of you have the nature context?
Do we all?
I don't
Maybe we
Or-
might all have it.
Have it.
Or I think
I've
so.
got
Jacob-
I got desolate.
Oh, right. You have desolate and social. Okay. So, so Chuck and Dan almost instantly are like, sounds like bleeding like a donkey or something, like a
Man.
mule.
It's an injured animal.
We should probably help
Or
And as you start
go
getting
get dinner.
even closer,
or eat it. I
you
mean,
hit, yeah, good. And it's like kind of echoing and reverberating through the walls of this cavern. As you start getting closer to it, you hear another voice that seems to be like frustrated and yelling. Right as you round the bend, you see a large pile of just things and packs and bags and like looks like camping equipment and all sorts of just random various tools stacked like vertically like a cone almost. And underneath it is this very unhappy looking donkey. And he seems to have fallen into this little like collapsed part of the ground. And he's in
Sounds
this
familiar,
like
Joe.
small part of a maybe. It's in this small like not quite. It's like just a hole that's almost just big enough for it, but it's like collapsed ground and doesn't seem to have a clear way out of it.
It appears you've
and next
fallen
to
and
it,
broken your ass.
next to it, you see this short figure standing by it. And it appears to be like an elderly gnome. Kind of got like a little bit of a hunchback going on, and got some raggedy clothes, and he's got a cane, and he's whacking the side of this pile of cone of stuff on the back of this donkey. And he's muttering all sorts of obscenities and things in a slur between common and gnomish. And that's what you see. It's almost deafening as you get close to it. Just this donkey every so often goes meh, and like, or whatever sound a donkey makes.
Because
and
Hee-haw.
yeah, hey, something like that, as it blasts out and echoes and reverberates through the caves. It's like almost ear piercing, but
My God.
pretty annoying for sure.
Looks like he needs help getting his ass out of that crack.
Yeah, man.
Go fish him out of that ass crack. Yeah.
Man, you're
Yeah, sure,
stuck.
I'll
And
approach to
as
help
you guys approach and-
maneuver things.
okay, sure. So you show up, and as the three of you like approach, he kind of spins around slowly and kind of pivots on his walking stick back towards you guys, and looks over each of you quickly, and kind of like looks puzzly at you, Chuck, and then over at you, Dan. It's kind of like now, and his eyes fixate on you, Jake, and his hands kind of go, you can help me, sir. This damn animal's stuck and got my livelihood on his back, and he hasn't been able to move for hours. Like, I wanted to get to the town before nightfall. Even though I hear
I'll help.
Tacobo's still just as lovely at night.
Think you packed too much stuff on it.
Oh no, Sten's is fine. He carries this all the time. He's the strongest donkey out there.
You got it, man, or you need me to give you a hand?
I think I can handle this.
Okay.
I'll start unloading the donkey.
I'll like
Okay.
point at stuff and then point at the ground like I'm supervising or
I
something.
guess get that next. And
Mhm,
yep.
mhm.
mhm.
I'll just wait for you to reach out and get something. I'll be like, yeah, that one. Mhm, mhm.
All right. So as you go to like start grabbing stuff off of it, you don't get stopped, but the gnome just starts like, careful with that. And he's just kind of like,
Oh yeah. What he
as
said.
you're
What he said.
grabbing things.
Careful with that one.
yeah. And
Even I can
you
tell
don't-
it's
it's-
fragile
and
from here.
he seems to act like everything's fragile, even though most of the stuff you're grabbing is like cloth or bags and pots and pans. There's all sorts of just randomness on it. But you start,
And they're all
unloading
made
it.
out of paper mache.
and after a few minutes go by, you notice there's two piles of almost identically tall stuff. Like you've been unloading this, but it hasn't been getting any smaller. And you've got like this other pile that you've set to the side that looks to be almost the same size as what was on the back of this donkey.
Wow. Is this some sort of magic? The donkey that keeps giving or something?
Dude, your ass is magical and shit.
And at that, he cracks up laughing. He's like, I was wondering how long it was going to take you guys to notice that. Of course he is. How do you think I fit so much stuff there? He's got some space bending magic on it a little bit, but
Nice.
nothing he can't handle.
Space
Then
donkey.
why is he on
Yeehaw.
the ground?
Well, he fell in a hole, and I guess that's too much for him. But
Just pick him
he's
up,
fallen
man.
into holes and got up plenty of times. I don't know what his problem
Okay,
is.
then. I suppose I'll try to maneuver my way into the hole so as to just pick up donkey and pack full of stuff all at once.
Okay. you step down into the hole. And something like this would fall under a force test.
All right.
So, kind of the difference between force and athletics is if it's a feat of like strength or stamina. Athletics is more like endurance, long term type things, whereas a force test is overpowering, like a heavy obstacle or something that's stuck, that type of thing. So,
All right.
make your force test. It will be the sum of your bronze score plus any points in force. And then the context here would be Warren or social. He's a merchant vendor.
Oh, okay. In that case, I'll add one for social. There we go.
All right. One success is not going to cut it. So you
Dang.
go under to pick him up, and well, at least it's not enough to cut it without being hurt. So one thing about Anvea in the system is there's very rarely a time when a check won't succeed. Most of the time you're rolling to see if it happens without hurting you. So by failing a check, or partially failing a check, just means that it's going to hurt a little bit, but you'll still probably get the result you're working for, unless you're trying to go like above and beyond the outcome you're asking for. But in this case, you're able to get it out, but you definitely feel like, oh man, that did not do something right to my back. So you are not prepared for how heavy this donkey is. Like, you've lifted them before. They're not much of a problem for your frame, but there's all sorts of wizardry going on in how packly this pack is. Or
Does
how
he need to put more or less
how
back into this? I'm
packed
not sure.
This pack is packed. But yeah, so you lift up, but you are going to take some stress damage, which is going to be 2 stress. So mark that down on your sheet as 2 stress in your physical.
Have done so now.
All right. And from there, you get him out, and right as like the first bit of his legs get on, he starts like trying to, assist you and walk along the ground as you're pushing him up. And immediately, as 2 of his legs are up, the gnome grabs onto the little lead on it and starts tugging with all his might. Doesn't seem to be helping you too much, but he's pulling on it. And you get him up and out. He stops making that horrible, like, pained sound. It doesn't really look like he was injured from falling in there, because you don't see, like, his legs don't seem to be injured in any way or broken or twisted or anything. It just looked like he was kind of annoyed at his owner yelling at him.
I guess we'll put all that stuff
I
back
didn't
on,
pick
and
them back
by we I mean like you.
Yeah. Start packing stuff back on.
So you start packing things, and as you're doing that, the gnome walks over. You're picking up like handfuls of stuff as you did before, and you start putting it back. And then the gnome's like picking up one thing here and there, and he's just kind of tossing them almost haphazardly. They seem to land in a way that stacks pretty efficiently for him. As he does that, he says, "Oh, well, I do appreciate it. What was your name? Can I get that from you?"
Osmond.
Osmond. Okay. Well, I do see it. I mean, you appear to be the adventuring types, but as someone as big as you, I'm surprised you're not wearing like armor or anything on you.
You can do that.
Well, I typically don't expect people to fight me.
Well, I do have, it's not the nicest, but I have some form of payment, because I wouldn't really be anywhere if I hadn't been helped out of here. I'd be willing to part with this rather it's decent. Some light leather armor, if you would like it.
Sure.
All
If
right.
you have something in my size, absolutely.
He says, "Oh, well, that's why I'm offering you the letter. It can breathe a little bit." And so he fishes out of his pack, and as he goes to like retrieve it, he kind of just jumps on the back and starts climbing up this pile of things and starts sifting through it. And there's this strange like visual as he's sorting through equipment, and it kind of like falls back in on itself, almost like it's flowing.
That's a
And he
fancy
eventually
donkey.
fishes out like the edge of this chest piece, and then yanks it out and drops it off the edge to you. And
I
you
just
can
gotta
mark
know.
down a D6 light leather armor.
Is it actually a
Neat.
magic donkey, or is it something on the donkey that's magical?
And you say that to him. It's like, well, it's a little bit of both. It started out as just a pack, but I've experimented a little bit with them, and it's a combination of his diet, some spells, and the little pack that he's wearing.
Neat. I want one too someday.
They're expensive, but I could, if we meet up again in the future, I may be able to share some of my secrets with you. But I don't have time for that now. I've got to go before it gets dark.
Do you have like
Cobell
a,
awaits.
do you have like a dealership for these donkeys?
Not at the moment. I haven't ever needed to make more than one, but I suppose if I were incentivized to, I may do that.
All right.
But again,
We'll talk. We'll talk business opportunity.
I mainly travel between Cobell and any of the towns to the south. There's circuit here up and down, so I'm sure we'll run into each other again.
New and used donkeys for sale.
Yes. Then he climbs up in the front of the pack, and as he kind of like sifts through, it's almost like a seat kind of like appears out of the jumbled mess of chaos, and he plops down in it and kind of folds up and sits as stands, walks through the rest of the corridor back towards Cobell. Jake. So yeah, you can mark that it's light leather armor. You put light and leather as tags. Those are each tags. And the context is because this is kind of banged up. It looks to be desolate and warren. And so the contexts on items again are more where they would sell. And it's kind of like a theme of the item. So you might get like light leather armor that's social as a context. And that would mean it's kind of like fancy and almost made for like a social setting. It's more geared towards like a party or something. And then you might get like nature where it's kind of made out of like brambles and things. So the context more the theme of what item you have.
So there might be some like bat leather in this.
Yeah. And then are you going to wear the armor?
I believe I shall.
Okay. So you can put down one armor in your physical armor slot. So there's your HP, damage, stress, armor, and protection. And this is worth one armor.
Cool.
Nice.
The way that applies is armor, whenever you take damage, your armor rating is added to that dice pool, but you get to cut out the top dice out of however many armor you add to it. So if you were taking 1d6 damage, you would add your armor to that 1d6. So it'd be 2d6, but you get to knock off the top as many points as you have. So if you had 2 armor points, you were taking 2d6, it would be 4d6 minus the top 2. So it just kind of smooths out the damage curve.
Nice.
Yeah. All righty. And that's that. He gets on the donkey, heads back, and you guys continue on your way.
Outstanding.
Boy, we're such good people.
All right.
We help those guys find a leaf. We help this guy get his donkey out of a hole. Maybe next we'll get food.
Okay. Now, as you continue through, it felt almost like you were going down, but now the path seems to be winding back up. And as it does, it opens back out, and you're starting to kind of reconvene with the forest above. But right as you're going to leave this cave, you see that there's another group of people walking towards you. And they kind of resemble the three that you saw earlier in the cave, wearing much of the same getup. But this time it is 3 humans.
Are you guys here to collect the toll too? We already paid them.
And they say, "Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. We're the exit toll." So
Okay,
you watch
like,
and make sure that nothing, goes inside that's not supposed to be there. We keep all the bears and things out, and you're obligated to pay us for it.
I didn't see any bears. Are you doing
Exactly.
because they're doing their job, man. Yeah, I got you.
Right.
I'll
You
pluck
didn't
off
see anything dangerous in there.
another leaf and them.
There was
leaf.
there was a donkey in a hole. That was dangerous.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I nearly put my back out.
Where was your roadside assistance?
Yeah, man.
Well, we weren't called upon. We watched the exits and the entrances. There was nobody in trouble as they were passing through. So, not our problem.
But they were in trouble.
Not when I saw them.
You should pay us for helping them.
How do I even know that you're...
do your job?
I don't think so. That's not how this works. I'm the one charging you the exit toll. That's what I do.
We should charge you for our time and labor.
I got your toll, man. Like,
Okay.
here.
Do you hand him another leaf?
I hand him another leaf.
Fix it. And he looks you over. He's like, "Well, this is appreciated. Looks like you've got a little bit more to give there, buddy."
No, that's
I think
the
we'll let you
going
pass.
price. Yeah. Okay. I'll go. I'll walk.
If we get some more.
Wait. No, I paid you, so I get to go now.
This isn't enough.
It was enough at the other end. It's got to be enough at this end.
Exit, man, it's more dangerous on this side. We got a higher fee.
Well, that's...
Well, actually, I think it's more dangerous on this side because I'm here.
Yeah, man.
All right. And are you attaching any sort of check to that, Jake?
Not particularly, just
Okay.
mentioning that I am, in fact, a giant.
Mm-hmm. And he looks you up and down and sees that you've got your new sort of crude armor, but armor nonetheless. And he looks back to his 3 guys and to you, and but then he looks back down at the plant. He seems to be like calculated his head, like,
I will let you know.
Giant.
There are like way more giants on this side here than there are on that side there from where I stand.
He looks back. So in these scenarios, there's kind of a check being prompted, but if you choose not to make any check, it turns into a saving throw. So saving throw is like if I'm not presented with any check from anybody for the encounter or the scenario, then it will always default to saving throw. And typically saving throws are more difficult to achieve than a check. So If anyone wants to make some sort of check, it will default to a charisma test or a saving throw.
I'll make a test against him. Like he's
Look at there.
threatening. I'd be like, listen, man, we paid you. He's strong, and I'm tenacious as fuck. So let us go.
I'm just here.
Pass or else.
Okay. Give me a compel check.
Compel. That's charisma. So I just get 5 dice on this.
Yep. And then this is against social or Warren.
Yeah, I don't have those.
Okay. So
I got a success.
that's enough. So he looks back down at his leaf and back at the guys, and they look back at you, Jake, and he turns back, and the other 2 people behind him are just kind of like, no. they're shaking their heads. They're like, well, let's go. So you have successfully avoided conflict yet again.
Hooray.
All right.
All right. With that, guess we had, because we're gonna go until midnight, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, just because it's a one-shot encounter, go to resolve it real quick because I have a different thing planned for the next meet. So you guys hand wave, make it through the village. They point you on your way to Bagbart. You make it up to Bagbart, and you get inside of his. You're pointed through this village, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Bagbart lives up on the hill there in a bit, or about halfway up the mountain to the left here. We haven't seen him in a bit. He hasn't been down. He usually is, but you know, he's sometimes we don't see him for a month. That's kind of normal, but you know, people like him are a little eccentric sometimes. So they point you up there, and you approach this small cottage on the side of this mountain. It's kind of surrounded by trees, but you see all like in front of it, they've been worked down, and there's this nice little clearing. It's got like a table set up and things out there, so plenty of room for if he has like kind of looks like he entertains or something, because you just see lots of room for people and things up here. But you see this cottage. There's no smoke coming out of the chimney. Doors closed, but you do see lights on inside.
Oh, well, looks like he's home.
Go knock, man. You do it, elf dude.
Okay.
I've carried you all enough this adventure, so you gotta put your work in.
Okay,
Actually, no, I
guess
think you carried me the most.
I
Not
mean, I
bad.
don't know. We could knock together.
Oh, let's knock together. Like teamwork. Like, do we like interlock our fingers and knock, or just like 1, 2, 3 and both knock independently?
I don't know. The first one sounds central. I don't know. I mean, no, let's do the second one.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, knock.
You knock, lets off this solid thud. But you don't hear any response. Don't hear anything on the other side.
That's all 3 knock at the same time. Maybe.
Yeah.
That'll help.
Teamwork.
More knocks. No
More
sound.
knocks.
Don't hear anything. Boom, boom, boom. And it's kind of just like the sound of a leaf rustling as you knock, Chuck, but the rest of you guys
Yeah.
knocking.
That's a very
Excuse
soft
me.
knock.
Excuse me. We have your stuff. We
No
need you to
sound.
sign for this package.
UPS. Yeah.
I'm gonna start filling out a little label that says that we'll come back to try and deliver it tomorrow.
Yeah, there aren't
Yeah.
any instructions.
Sorry,
like,
we missed
put
you.
the package behind the log pile and take this note away.
Yeah.
Right.
Are there windows to this hut?
There are. There's you don't see any like on the front face, but on the left side, as you're like looking around, you see there is a set of windows that
I didn't
look
think
in.
about that. We can like look in them, right?
And you peek your eyes through, and you see there's like basically there's kind of like this fireplace on that center part of the wall, and there's looks to be windows on either side of that. And so you can look through these windows, and it would almost be hard for anyone else to look through them, but your height, it's like your eyes are pretty much right at the bottom of the window frame.
What do you see
As
with
you
your
look through.
special eyes?
You're not able to see the center of the room because this fireplace kind of like cuts your the edge of your vision out a lot. But you see this like purple glow coming from the center of the room.
Weird.
Do you see any badgers in there?
No, just a bunch of purple light. I think they might be growing more kozil in there.
Oh, this could be fortuitous. Maybe we could make him bigger.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Kozel-
good with my height.
Kozeltron?
Like, well, that's kind of an interesting idea. Like, yeah, man. Quick, toss me in.
All right. The chimney's not going, so I'll try to throw you up on the roof.
Okay, that would be a. You could do that as a force or arranged.
Force.
Okay. All right. You maybe ball goes up a little bit and arc back and give him a throw. Give me that force test.
Oh no.
Oh,
So you have the option of pushing a roll.
I think I'll do that.
I don't know how to do a macro for it in Roll20. So just do the number of dice that aren't ones or
Okay.
sixes. So in this case, it looks like you rolled 7. There's 1, 1. So roll 66, and that'll be your new total.
do you have like a penalty that you take for doing this?
So doing a push, any one will deal stress damage to you. And depending on what feat or depending on what check you're doing it for. Oh man.
I just splat into the siding.
So again, you usually will succeed what you're going for. Maybe not in the way that you wanted. Maybe not in a way that doesn't hurt you. So you bottle Kozel up and you go to chuck him, and you vastly miscalculate the height, and you just chuck him through the window, and your hand breaks through the glass, cutting you as you pull out. And so you get 2 damage.
That's gonna be hard
not
to
stress.
explain.
Damage.
Pullout game's terrible, man.
I am not trained in ranged attacks, unfortunately.
But Kozel, you go tumbling into the room, and as you stand up, you look around and quickly see there is a elderly man in some like greenish robes, and he's got this like pretty wily gray hair, and he's got a hat that's like on the back, and it's kind of like those fishing hats that you see people wear that are like big and circular. He's got like that on his back with the part around his neck holding it there, completely frozen in place, not moving.
That's fucked up.
Purple light emanating from his body.
I'll
There's
go
a
open the
slight
door.
sheen around him. Yeah, you go over to the door. You have to fumble with it for a little bit, but you're able to get the bolt through, and
Yeah.
you fling it open.
Dude's like glowing and frozen in here.
Sir, we
Like,
brought you your package.
So you walk in, and he's almost facing like not quite the door. He's facing like away from the window, and like if you came in through the north, he's kind of facing like the west side.
Maybe I'll go
Of the
like
room.
kind of stand like next to him and do like one of these things, like look at him and try to see where he's looking, and I'll try to look where he's looking. I'll try and kind of like take the
As
same
you do
pose.
that, and you're like trained in his eyes, you're trying to see where he's looking. And you see his eyes are following you as you're walking in front of him.
that
So
locked
he's
in
like frozen in
syndrome
place,
thing.
and you see he's like tracking you, and then he like looks over to Kozel and over to Jake, completely unmoving, but you can see his eyes are like kind of darting around,
Hey
watching
man,
things in the room.
like we can get you out of this. Just
Look at the things that we need to do.
And he like looks down.
Uh-huh.
ground.
I will look at the ground in front of him.
It is a pretty shitty
And-
floor. You want it redone?
All right.
You look down and you see there is there's like this looks like a scroll or something had been laid out, because you see there's a piece of parchment, and there's a big hole burnt out of the center of it that's burned into the ground a little bit, and you see this strange like hex symbol that burnt its way into the ground that also has this very soft purplish glow to it directly in front of him.
I know this trick. We got to break the symbol under the paper. Like, dude, is that what we need to do?
Look, do
He looks
eyeballs
down,
up
he
and
looks back at
down.
you.
Eyeballs up and down if yes, left and right if no.
He like looks at you, Dan, then looks at Chuck, then looks at Jake, and then he does left and right, and then up and down.
Like, that's yes, no, maybe. Like,
He
It's
rolls
not
his eyes
helpful.
at you.
well, you're fucking not being very helpful here, man.
Do we need to hold hands and like do a dance around it?
No, I got it. You need one of us
Feel like-
specifically to break the thing.
And he hesitates for a little bit and looks at you, and then slowly looks up and down.
It's me, isn't it? You need me.
He like looks off to the side and back, and he kind of looks up and down.
All
I'm
right,
gonna go see
man.
what he's got in his fridge.
I'll pull my stick out and charge it up with my magical energies, and I'll smash at the symbol on the ground.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Give me a melee test as charisma, though. Or yeah. So use charisma as your base stat because you're doing your spell.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a melee test. So if you have any skills in melee,
Mm-mm.
and then it's against an arcane sigil. So you get the arcane context.
Nope. So 5 dice.
5 dice.
I got 3 successes.
All right.
Wow.
3
You broke the
successes.
shit out of that.
Nice. So you charge up your
Stick.
you charge up your stick, shillelagh style, and you kind of like hold it with both hands, and it's like, you know, you almost overdo it a little bit. It's glowing, and there's like just little spores kind of coming off of it, and you see his like eyes widen a little bit, and he like looks around kind of panicked and frantically, and you smash the floor, and it splinters wood and flings it all around the room, and the paper gets torn up to shreds, and this sigil like hits, and it seems like almost solid at first, but then it cracks and turns into like this papery and blows away.
We're
As you do
halfway
that-
there to
Magician.
redoing his flooring.
No, we're
Yeah.
not.
I gotta get
And as
rid of
it
the old form
crumbles and
first.
moves away, you hear or you see that the purple light like slowly dies down, and as he slowly begins to regain movement, you just quickly like, oh my god, I've been having to breathe through my eye sockets for days.
You fucking
do that?
meat people are weird. I didn't know that
You
could be
can
done.
if you have to.
I didn't know.
Thank you.
I'm glad I don't have lungs.
As I'm
That's fucked
still like
up.
just going through his food.
And he like kind of like scratches his head a little bit. He says, I was trying to experiment on a new sigil for Taco Bell, but it's effective. I did the trigger run though. So I'm glad you guys found me.
Yeah.
And I see you've got, and he points at you, Jake, and I see you've got a present there for me.
Yes.
Yeah, they kind of like want you to do your thing.
I'll set it on the floor next to
them.
the hole in the floor and motion towards it, Vanna
I
White
got you a
style.
gift too, man.
And what's that?
I'll pluck off another leaf and hand it to him. There
Oh,
you go.
thank you, my little plant friend. He opens up a compartment in his like. You see, he's got like this spell pouch.
He's got a
And-
Batman belt. Just say it, Joe.
A little bit. So he's got like this spell pouch. He opens it up, and you see that he's got like a section of it that's full of similar leaves. Dunks it in there and closes it. That's much appreciated.
I didn't bring any
he picks
presents.
up-
I'm sorry.
And you're fine. I'm sure this was from the three of you. And
Mhm.
he picks up the package and shakes it a little bit, and does the twine, pops off the cap, looks down, and
We got to bet that it's
smiles, just like, "Oh."
spoons. Is it spoon? Well, spoon, not spoons. That was Dan's
I thought it was
idea.
spoons.
It's just
Yeah.
a spoon.
And he like his grip on it changes slightly as he looks inside of it, but he's got a smile on his face, and he very timidly like turns it sideways and starts shaking it as this kind of like packing thresh or like what would you call that? Like the
Straw.
threshing material, straw. It's got like all this kind of like dead straw packed in there, and he slides it out. And in the center of it, there's like this egg-shaped rock. That's
Gosh, we were right about
Gray.
it.
It was a
right.
rock.
It was
Yeah,
a rock.
Look
It
at
wasn't
that.
rock.
Oh my
Gosh darn it.
We're fucking
And
smart.
this isn't a well, it's kind of a rock, but it's yes, it's a rock. It's the bird.
Oh. Okay.
Rock. ROC. Rock.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I raise these every so often, and my last one got unmanageable, I suppose is a delicate way of putting it. But yeah,
so it was like a big rock instead of a little rock like this one?
Oh, they're always this size to start.
Did you kill it?
Was it a boulder?
I didn't kill it. I just let it go. But
Oh.
Do rocks grow up into boulders?
Only if you set on them, man.
they're birds. They're birds. But they start as these like very hard. They're magical beasts. They've got this strange life cycle. Not very comparable to like a chicken or anything like that.
I always wondered how boulders grow up.
Oh, cool, man.
How
Congratulations
you know?
on your new stone bird.
He just gives up. Like, yes, I thank you. And he goes and moves over. He's got like this little there's a table that looks like it's got a bunch of alchemy and related type equipment on it. And there's this little spot in the corner that's got some cloth that he sits on top of that. It's got a little depression, almost like it's made for that size. He sits it there and he comes back and he's rather chipper and, well, I suppose we ought to be getting back to town.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I kind of want to come back and see your boulder someday when it's grown up.
You certainly can.
Is it
It
called?
might be different than you were expecting.
It's like a
Oh,
Graveler.
Such
Graveler?
are the ways of magical beasts. You know, yeah, we'll that'll happen. Well, normally I would be able to just kind of wisp us over there. I had a teleportation circle built into the floor,
Oh,
but it was built into the floor.
Oh, so you didn't want us to redo your flooring?
No, it was close. You just had to etch it out, and would have broken just as well.
well,
But
now we know for next time,
smashing
man.
it works too. Yeah.
If we see strange pictures that do things, just smudge it out.
Yes. Usually, if it's like the chalk sigil or something, it'll stop working if you just kind of smudge it. Needs to have its form intact to function correctly. Also, though, it may be a more prepared wizard might have extra mechanics built into what happens when it smudges.
Carburetor.
People have done that to be rather crafty, but for the most part, if it's some petty little sigil, you can just smudge it out and it'll stop working.
So just spit on it then.
And run. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I have spit, man. Like catch me in the
Guys, this is-
mornings,
I
I
have plenty
got
I don't
dew.
think you do.
Yeah, catch me in the
No.
mornings, I got dew. But yeah,
All right.
dew, man.
Well, I
Dew.
suppose I'll be needing a
Got to do the
escort
do.
back to town, or if you wouldn't
Sure.
mind
I mean,
accompanying me.
we got to go back and get our bribe anyways.
Yeah, man.
Government. Your bribe?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they asked us to come out here and get you, and I assume that they were bribing us to do it. So,
How
Oh,
would
yeah.
they be?
Yeah, they're usually pretty fair over there. I know they pay me pretty well, even though I'm doing a necessary service.
they bribe
So-
you a lot.
Well, it's a exchange of services. We don't really call it a bribe. I offer my expertise in a particular area, and they compensate me for it.
Okay. You do you, man. Like,
And this was more of a gift. Wouldn't call it a
Oh.
bribe.
okay.
Oh,
Good to know.
maybe they'll give us a gift instead.
I'm good with that, man. Anyway,
That
let's make like a me and get the fuck out of here.
I agree. So you guys venture back, and he does his thing at the town. We'll skip through that, but basically, yeah, you get him back to the town. He's able to redo his sigils as he does. He's got this kind of strange rig that he wears to kind of. It's a pretty funny turn of event. If you guys had made it back in time, you would have been holding the rope as he like cliff walks along the exposed edges of the town and does his sigils again, because he's putting these sigils like around the sides to keep things from crawling out. So
There you go.
unfortunately, we don't have time for that. But
I figured out his incantation.
yeah,
I assume.
Ruin
what?
all the incantations.
Hocus pocus, make it unbrocus. I assume that's how we do
Yeah.
it.
that works. Mhm. And for I guess the later we'll get into spellcasting. So next session, it's going to be a little bit higher level. I'll have more feats and abilities ready for you guys to choose. So you can keep these same characters and then
Yeah.
add to them if you'd like to.
Nice.
And then I'll send over a list of feats, and it'll be selecting 3 feats that you want. And feats are pretty much the same as a level in like D&D or something like that. But anybody can get any feat for the most part, although there's plenty of ones that you wouldn't want because they wouldn't really benefit your build in a particular way. But yeah, so we'll get into that next time. Chuck, you'll be able to pick up some full-blown spell casting.
Nice.
Do some ranks things. And then Daniel, if you're doing the bow, there's a few feats in there to do cool stuff with ranged weapons.
Okay.
And then Jake, what kind of direction are you trying to build yours?
Just a great big burly brawler.
Brawler type. Okay. Yeah, there's plenty of like tanky, brawlery type feats that you can take. There's ones that let you like jump in damage or jump in the way of damage for other people, or one you'll probably like lets you do any check. There's one feat for every attribute like this, but one of the feats says you can do any check as one particular attribute, even when it doesn't match up, once per session. So you'd be able to make any check as your brawn once per day.
Nice.
That would be awesome.
Nothing like toughing it out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's called brute force. So that'll be one that you should pick up. But yeah, we'll do more gameplay next time. So this time is a lot more of like building and explaining with the light stuff. But next time it'll be pretty much more full-blown combat and encounters and things and testing out the rating system.
Cool.
Nice.
But yeah,
Got to
I
do some
appreciate
social
you guys. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you guys playing this with me, and it's hopefully going to be a pretty fun little game.
Yeah,
to add
so
to
far
our
seems good. I'm digging it.
pack.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Straightforward,
Yeah,
easy to roll.
Yes.
yeah.
Sure.
D6 games kind of remove the heavy swing rolls of D20 games, so that's nice.
Right. Yeah, I like the fail forward thing's fun. Like I don't like game systems when you get stuck in a room and you just have to roll a certain number for you to
You
leave.
have to do it right
you know?
or not.
Yeah, that's not what I'm designing everything in this game to avoid that. Like you always succeed progressing the story or progressing your goal. The only time you could actually fail a check is if you're doing a check that's not related. Like if you wanted to go out of your way to do something that wouldn't benefit the story, if you succeed on it, sure, it'll help you. But failing it can actually just be a flat out failure and you'll not get anything out of it other than damage. Or if it's completely irrelevant, maybe not even damage. But yeah, lots of options there. But goal is to keep it flowing and kind of build your skills and choices to whatever scenario you're
Very
you
cool.
encounter. Yeah. All right. Well, next Friday, more of this.
Yeah.
What are we doing in the week here?
So Saturday night, Goodman Games official. Dan and Joe will be there for that. And Jake, you'll be there, won't you?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's us
Right,
again.
we are doing
It's
Devil.
us.
Mhm.
Trying to remember if your
Indeed.
character's still dead or not.
He is, but he could be resurrected. Or I do have a backup made,
Okay, cool.
although he'd have to be imported into Foundry, I believe.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Anyway, yeah, Bert will be there too. So yeah, Devilich, Crypt of the Devilich. Maybe we'll finish it. I'm not sure. We've got just a handful of rooms left, so we'll see. That's Saturday. Sunday, I don't think we've got anything planned. Monday, I'll be over on Goodman Game. No, I'll be over on the Lollygaggers for, I think it's Alien. Wednesday, here on Defenders, we're going to be doing some more Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I think, I think that's it. And then next Friday, more of this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go us.
Go us.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again for playing. Thanks for watching, and tune in for some more content. Have a good night.
Later.
Thanks, everybody.